Hey, welcome to Filler. I am really tired, but I'm still Joe.
I am really tired too, and I will always be Steve, whether I want to be or not.
Wow, we're starting the ep heavy. You okay, Steve?
Look, and yeah, I got into a fight with my partner. There was only one can of Spindrift left in the fridge, and
Oh no.
we both wanted it. It was the Island Punch flavor. It's a really good one, and I don't know, man. I think it's just unfair that there's only so much Spindrift in the world, and that sometimes you just have to hurt the people closest to you to get what you want out of life. And I hate that a stupid seltzer put me in this position. So I'm sad and I'm angry and I'm disappointed in myself, but more so in Spindrift. So that's how I am.
I think my one and probably most important question to ask you is, are you still thirsty though?
Always.
Does that mean she got it?
I won't divulge any personal information. I think what happens between a man and a woman in their fridge is between them and God. So,
And their last can of Spindrift.
Yeah, well, it's not really something I need to be putting out on the internet, Joe. And I'll thank you to stop being so nosy about my life. Thanks.
Anyway, so we're getting ready for our upcoming Bruce Springsteen miniseries.
Which is probably the thing I'm most excited for. Although, I'm most excited for it because of how much I enjoyed doing the Blink series, and that this is going to be twice as long.
Yeah.
There's twice as many studio albums. Although I guess with the side projects, we go into kind of a similar length with Blink, but we're gonna have to break this up pretty well. So we're gonna record 2 episodes at a time, 6 total. I don't know if we're gonna release them every week or 2 on, 1 off, and do a different episode. We haven't figured that out yet. But each episode is going to be its own decade of what albums Bruce has released in that decade, and I'm really, really enjoying going through an artist that I grew up listening to and seeing your opinions kind of change and also get re-solidified in other ways. And it's going to be a very, very healthy and interesting and fun debate, I think.
Yeah. That's I'm trying to. I got a lot to say. I think so far my favorite part of the process has been when Steve was on the dock while I was writing my reactions to whatever song or album it was. I don't even remember at this point.
I think it was Born in the USA, the album.
The album,
it was Glory Days. I think it was the song Glory Days.
Oh yeah, it was Glory Days. Yeah. That's a new trauma we unlocked at the ripe old age of 32, and Steve was recording my reaction, which we'll get into what my reaction was when we get to our 80s episode of Bruce. But I knew he was on the dock, and I didn't know if he was actually doing his own writing or just watching me do it. But you were watching me do it, because I got a text a couple minutes afterwards saying, "This is very entertaining." And then it was a screen recording of my obscene reactions to Glory Days, which was awesome. So I would say right now versus Blink-182, which probably by the time we got to Neighborhoods with that miniseries, it was starting to feel like work for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bruce felt like work very early on, but more not tedious work, but rather active brain work. So I appreciated it.
Yeah,
because it's been challenging me, because I'm not familiar like you are. In the way that with listening to Blink-182 albums, I was like, yeah, I know this. I'm just really spewing my thoughts. This has been challenging in a good way, so should be fun.
Yeah, I think the Bruce albums, there's different kinds of stuff to engage with than Blink. Not to discredit Blink, but I think it's more of an artist that makes you want to stop and look at the lyrics versus Blink just kind of being fun for the most part overall, and you either are in the vibe or not. And I actually started to have a lot of fun in doing the work when we got to the bad albums because that rage was fueling me.
Mhm.
And I don't really get that from Bruce. Not because he doesn't have bad albums, because I think he does, but they're just not the same kind of bad. At least not the kind that makes it like fun to hate. It's just kind of disappointing. That's my take. So I'd like to see how that goes for you.
Yeah.
And also seeing your first reaction to a lot of albums I grew up listening to, and how I've like learned some new stuff from going through them with more of a fine-tooth comb this time, and while listening to his memoir, because I've already read it, but now I'm listening to it on Spotify. It's gonna be fun. But before that, we're doing this quick little episode to just give a couple recommendations of things we've been into lately.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we had like a true recommendation corner on the regular episode, because Blink-182 took up a lot of it. And I think when we got in the moment of those marathon recordings, we don't really think about recommendations. We're really focused on the media we're engaging with. So we're here to give you some...
We barely had time to get to the Spindrift slander in each episode. So
yeah, but it's there, because I think if it comes down to recommendations or Spindrift bits, I'd rather Spindrift bits, because we could always give these little one shots of recommendations. So today we have a total of 7 recommendations or 8 now. Ooh, I see. Oh, you stole one of the ones that I was gonna write that one.
I think 2 of mine are ones you would have put anyway, so
we'll talk about them. Yeah, so we don't have 7, we have 8 recommendations, and there's some crossover among us for what we got. So would you like to start with yours? Your first one?
Yeah, do you want to go one for one?
Yeah, let's do every other one, yeah.
So my first one is the movie Mickey 17 by Bong Joon-ho, starring Robert Pattinson and way more other people than I thought, like Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette and Stephen Yeun. I totally forgot any other big names are in this movie besides Robert Pattinson, because I have this thing with Bong Joon-ho movies. So after seeing Snowpiercer and Okja, I had seen Parasite, the Best Picture winner from 2019, 2020. I had seen it alone in a theater without knowing anything about it besides the fact that it was a Bong Joon-ho movie. And it was one of the best movie-going experiences I've ever had, because that movie takes some very hard left turns, and I didn't know anything. So going into it blind was like the best choice I ever made. So I've kind of made this new rule for myself. And anytime there's a new Bong Joon-ho movie and trailers come out, I'm not going to watch them. I'm not going to know anything about it, because I want to be surprised. I want to see what kind of ride he's going to take me on. I couldn't be happier than I did with this one too. I didn't know it was based on a book. Now I'm curious how it's different from the book. I think the book is just called Mickey 7. And I'm not even going to say anything about it, because I highly recommend people go into this movie blind if you can. If you didn't know anything about it, stop yourself. Just take my word for it. Take Joe's word for it, because he saw it 2 weeks before me.
Yeah.
And as soon as you said it, you came into our band's practice space and was like, "Does anybody see Mickey 17?" And I was like, "Don't say anything." And you were like, but I want to talk about it. And I was like, just wait, please.
So even now, I still can't talk about it, because we don't want to spoil anything for anyone. I do want to say I knew it was a book beforehand, so I knew some of the plot, which I agree with what you're saying. If you can go into it blind, go into it blind. Because having known some of the plot, I was kind of expecting some tropes to pop up, and just expecting things that, whether or not I was disappointed by the movie or validated or whatever, I agree with you. I think going in blind is best for his stuff, especially after Parasite. While I had an excellent time with Mickey 17, I definitely think if I went in totally blind, I would have had an even better time than I had.
Do you think so?
Yeah, there's a couple of things in there that I was like, okay, all right, we're going there, and then there were some threads left dangling for me. Whereas I think Parasite has, I got to rewatch it, but I imagine Parasite also has threads left dangling. And I was okay with that, because I had no idea what was happening, and I just let it happen to me, having the minor expectations of knowing what Mickey 17 was about. made me just have expectations, and I don't want to do that. That's how I go into horror movies, so it's how I should go into Bong Joon-ho movies too.
Yeah, it's weird. He paces his movies like horror, even when they're not, and it's
and that's what I
so
loved about
crazy.
Parasite. Yeah, especially like the scene where they're under the table or the bed, whatever it is, where they're hiding. Like when you said Parasite, that's where I immediately went. When he's driving the taxi, I had that dread. Several times in that movie, I had dread. Whereas Mickey 17, I think I was missing that dread. Maybe that's as close as I'll get to spoiler stuff. But I know Snowpiercer has that feeling of dread. Okja, I haven't seen. Does it have that?
Yeah, in a different way though, because it's been a while since I've seen it. Like it was basically the year it came out, I saw it. But it's more of like a feeling of dread on behalf of the animal, like wanting, like hope that the animal will be okay.
Yeah.
And dread that anything could go wrong for them. So you're kind of tense, like watching them try to save it. Yeah.
Okay. I have to watch Okja.
I don't think that really gives anything away.
Yeah. No, I think that's enough. Yeah, because I know what you mean. And I've tried watching Okja and I couldn't get into it for reasons that we've discussed off mic that I'm not going to say on mic because I don't want them on mic. Yeah, go watch Mickey 17 and don't know anything about it and have fun. On that note of dread, my first recommendation is a really short novel called No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. The first thing I noted, because I know that your partner is a big translated lit fan, this is translated lit, and I got into it because I was at the bookstore and I saw a Junji Ito manga adaptation of it. And then,
oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know it was a novel at first, but the manga is like thick. It's like, it looks like Uzumaki and Tomie and whatnot. And when I saw that it was an adaptation, my gut instinct told me, all right, like I want to read the original first, then I'll get into the adaptation, which is what I just try to do for everything. I finally picked it up because I needed a break in between whatever fantasy series and long sci-fi novels I've been reading. And I have been so unnerved by the narrator. It is just a man in Japan in the early mid 20th century who tries to get by unnoticed by everyone. He feels extremely lonely. He feels extremely alienated. That's where the title comes from, of No Longer Human. It's not a fantasy or sci-fi book. It's a regular fiction novel. But there is this alienation there that is so terrifying, and he masks a lot. He uses the phrase quote unquote clowning to fit in. So he's making all these jokes to appear like he's a regular human, and he is a regular human. It's just he doesn't feel like he's a regular human. And it has freaked me out so much because I've felt so much of what he's describing, where it's like, all right, I got to mask to fit in at work. Like I got to pretend to care about this thing, or if I'm weird about something or I have whatever idiosyncrasy or whatever interest, I have to kind of clown on myself or joke it off and shrug it off to make other people like kind of accept me. And he's got a lot of other like messed up ideas that do not resonate with me. Like he's super misogynistic and does not know how to interact with women or treat them. But there's also
that tracks with a character like that.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Especially from that time period and that location. Like it's all reinforced in that society. Anytime he says that he's masking, I'm like, yeah, I know how that feels.
Yeah.
There's two scenes that he says that really unnerve him in the book, and these aren't spoilers because this isn't like a spoiler heavy book, and it's where people call him out on faking it, and that's where there's that dread that's very Bong Joon-ho. And you're in his head as the narrator, and he's just like, I didn't know what to do because they got me. And he has to find his way out of the situation. Highly recommended. I'll give it to you if you're interested in it. It's a short read. I'm moving slowly through it because I don't want it to end. But I'm in the last third now, and I'm both sad and excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, that sounds good. I would like to see how that Junji Ito art would apply to a story like this. Like, is it all in his head? Of like will they draw like crazy masks on him that are supposed to be like metatextual, like not literal masks, but we see them? Like what interpretation could he have for that? I would really like to see that.
Oh, like Goodnight Poon Poon? Yeah, that'd be cool if they did, if Ito does that. I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm trying to go in blind to the adaptation. I don't want to look up anything just because now I know what the novel's about and I know I know what he's going for.
Cool.
What's your next recommendation?
Well, speaking of something taking place in Japan,
No, I was going to say to listeners, I promise we did not plan these segues.
no, we don't play these. I was like, I could either go with the Korean route for the last thing I did for one of my other recommendations, or the Japanese one for what you did. So I'll go with the Japanese. So after 60 something hours putting into this, I finally, like last week or 2 weeks ago, beat Ghost of Tsushima on PS5 because it was on the PS Plus tier that I had. So it was like included in the game catalog. And so it was like the director's cut version, and it's like upscaled for PS5. There's like no load times and stuff. And I had started this game years ago, and I love open world games, but you know, it's got to hit me at the right time with my ADHD of like, am I going to, you know, completely get absorbed in this, or am I gonna, you know, be overwhelmed and not want to, you know, bother with it because it feels like too much work. I think I had hit that stretch for a couple of years because this game came out in like 2020, and finally for some reason I was just like, okay, I'm finally gonna get to it, and I was so glad that I did because I did almost everything in this game. Like, I don't tend to 100% stuff, and I didn't quite with this, but the world of the game is just so gorgeous, and it's really the biggest factor I think that got people interested in the game when it got announced years before, is that it's just such a beautifully rendered version of feudal Japan. I think it's set in like the 1200s, and it's about a samurai who survives a Mongolian attack on his island outside the shores of mainland Japan, and he's one of the last like couple remaining samurai on his island that has to drive off a Mongolian attack completely by himself. And he dives into like very underhanded and unhonorable or dishonorable tactics, like ninja thievery type stealth kills that the samurai frown upon because you fight with honor, you face your enemies head on, instead he's like sneaking around and stabbing people from behind and, you know, throwing or shooting them with explosive arrows from the tall grass. You know, it's a really, really cool story, really basic, but you take it at your own pace. And that's kind of the whole thing about this game, is it is very much take your time with it, because you are so many times being stopped to just take in the beautiful scenery, the natural landscapes, these like wisteria covered hills, or a forest where it's always like yellow autumn leaves, or these beautiful beaches that you can see out or into the ocean where there's just like Mongolian ships like out across the entire sea, so there's nowhere to escape. So it's as beautiful as it is haunting. Like, it's so good. I mean, there's parts where you sit down and write haiku, and you just like point your camera at different spots of scenery and just be like, I'm going to include that in the haiku. And it turns out however you choose it to be. It's one of those games that I think couldn't exist without Breath of the Wild and its approach to open world, like very open world exploration and combat, but it does its own thing too, and it goes at its own pace. So if you haven't played this game, you probably have. I'm like way behind on it, but if you haven't played it, play it, and then go buy Ghost of Yotei, the sequel that should be coming out, I think, sometime this year. Yeah. And don't be a little bitch because a woman is the main character this time. It's going to be a great game, too. And Erika Ishii, they're on Dropout sometimes. They're like a very talented voice actor and comedian and stuff, and they're the lead in Ghost of Yotei. So check out Tsushima. You'll love it. And then go get Yotei like I will.
Nice. I got to be honest. I'm behind with you. I started Tsushima a while ago, and you were describing open world fatigue very well, because that's how I feel with God of War, even though it's not fully open world. With Ragnarok,
did you get to the crater yet?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, no, because I'm in that fatigue moment in Ragnarok. Yeah. I picked it up the other day and I was just like not feeling it. But the way you're describing Tsushima is making me want to play it and like restart it from the beginning and whatnot. So I think that's going to be, after I finish Ragnarok, that's going to be my summer focus game to get through.
Okay, I will say this then. You'd better be fully ready to go back into Ragnarok before you hit that crater, because I can't really say why, but it's not a story thing, it's not a spoiler thing. It's like you just have to be ready to push through that fatigue to get through the crater. That's all I'll say.
Okay, cool. I we're staying in Japan, I guess, for my
Okay.
recommendation. I
Oh
just
yeah, this one.
right. I just recently finished Attack on Titan after watching it for I don't know how many years, and I liked it. That's my review of Attack on Titan. There were parts of the
That's
ending.
good.
Yeah, there were parts of the ending that like really, really annoyed me and really, really undercut
Mhm.
what I think both. Well, I didn't read the manga, so I don't know what the mangaka was going for. But whatever the anime was doing, like it was really hammering home that theme, and then just some things made it weird. And I don't know if that was a lost in translation with the dub that I was watching, or if it was truly what they were going for. But ultimately, I was happy with it. I just needed a breather after I jump into the next heady anime or long one that I'm watching.
And quick
So
thing I'll say about
yeah,
Attack on Titan, I've seen it too, and I'm more positive on it than you are, but those same things did stand out to me.
yeah, and again, it's not to say I didn't like it. Like I would recommend it to people. This is definitely like a graduation anime from like a shonen. Like this is a good one to watch. If someone's like, "Oh, I really like Naruto," and I'm like, "That's great." Now go put on the big boy pants and go watch Attack on Titan. You know. But yeah, it's a good one to talk about, but very, very heavy.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to start Neon Genesis Evangelion,
Mhm.
and it's a short anime, but like I know generally its themes and its vibe, and I was like, I don't need that in my life right now.
It's a hard one to get into too because I haven't either because there's so many movies and stuff that retcon things,
Yeah.
and I don't need that. Not now.
I think I got spoiled by when I was scrolling on Reddit one day, and then I stopped scrolling, and I'm not going to spoil what it is, but I don't think they're as retconny as you think they are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I understand why you would think that they're retconny, but I think based on what I read, it's less retcon and more dimensional, multiversal potential. Yeah, like that. I think it's more of that, but I could be wrong because I haven't watched them. But yeah, I'm just very curious about it since everyone just really, really gives it such a claim. So looking for something to watch, I settled. I was asking, I was searching online about like just short anime that are heady, psychological, because I enjoy that. And one that was suggested was Satoshi Kon's Paranoia Agent,
Mm-hmm.
and it's 12 episodes. It is a whodunit because there is this serial assaulter. That's how I wrote it. I don't really know what else to
Yeah.
say. A serial attacker called Lil Slugger, who is a young boy on golden skates with a bent baseball bat attacking people in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's two cops trying to solve the mystery of who it is and to stop it. And each episode is kind of connected from one to the next. So the
Mm-hmm.
victim of the first episode interacts with the victim of the second, and so on and so forth, to
Mm-hmm.
carry the mystery throughout. I watched Kone's Paprika last year because I know that that's
Mm-hmm.
another famous anime, and I really hated the parade scene in that,
Yeah.
and I just
Yeah.
I wrote that it's weird. It felt weird for weirdness's sake, even
Mm-hmm.
though its themes and message were strong. Paranoia Agent does not feel like that. I feel like the message is clear. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it is weird and uncomfortable. It has that dread that we're talking about of Parasite, of Bong Joon-ho stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it's gripping to get through. So I think I'm like halfway through it, but I'm really, really enjoying it. Have you seen it?
So I saw the first episode years ago because I had a
Mm.
roommate that showed it to me. So in this one year, in like 2020, I had just randomly gone with a group of people to see Tokyo Godfathers
Okay.
in a special showing. And that was a really special experience because I was with a girl I was seeing at the time and all of their friends who were trans. And there's trans characters in Tokyo Godfathers. And you could see it was a really special movie to them. And that made me enjoy it even more because I felt like I was watching it with people that were getting something even more out of it than I would. And that was really special. So after that, I just happened to move in with a guy who was a big Satoshi Kon fan. So he showed me Paprika, Millennium Actress, and another
Perfect
movie.
Blue?
I can't remember. No, I still haven't seen Perfect Blue. I need to do that. But I remember Paprika being a big influence on Inception, and Perfect Blue being Requiem for a Dream, like the direct like lift of that scene in the tub.
Oh, I've never seen Perfect Blue or Requiem for a
Okay.
Dream. So I'll watch Perfect Blue,
Yeah,
then Requiem for a Dream.
I haven't been in a, somehow I've still never been in a bad enough headspace to watch Requiem for a Dream. So he showed me the first episode of Paranoia Agent because we had watched these Satoshi Kon movies. And I didn't really like Paprika either. I kind of fell asleep through it. But Millennium Actress I really liked. But Tokyo Godfathers I could definitely recommend easily. And yeah, I want to get around back to Paranoia Agent because that one episode was really good. And I don't know why we didn't. I think we started watching Samurai Champloo instead. And that's why we
That
never
makes
picked
sense.
it back up.
Yeah. Paranoia Agent is definitely less plot driven than Champloo is, even though that's like very character heavy. That is, they're like looking for the Samurai of Sunflowers or whatever it is for the entire time. Paranoia Agent has that plot to it, but it's like they're more character sketches in each episode that slowly tease the plot out. So that I see why you'd pick Samurai Champloo over that, at least at the time anyway.
I wanted to keep doing Paranoia Agent. We just didn't get back around to it. No, I do want to see that again too, because I remember being like, this is weird. That opening is so freaky.
Yeah.
When everybody's like laughing maniacally when they're standing in the center of the screen. Yeah.
Yep. And this isn't a spoiler for it. I figured out by maybe the second or third episode that the people laughing in it with like that intense manic music behind it, those are all the victims of Lil Slugger.
Yeah.
And like once that finally clicked for me, I was like, oh, this is terrifying. And then like seeing people that I've already met, but I have not gotten to their episodes yet. Now I'm like, oh God, oh, how's it going to go down with them? Like, it's just great show.
Oh, man. You remember the trick Jujutsu Kaisen plays in the first season with the opening, and there's like a guy that Yuji is friends with, and he's only in there in the opening for like the first few episodes or so, and you keep wondering like, when's he going to meet that guy? It looks like he has a really good friendship with him, and then something happens, and then he's not in the intro anymore.
Oh no, I think I skipped a lot of the episodes, like the opening, so I didn't pay attention to that when I was watching it. Interesting. I got to go back and check that out.
Okay, that was a lot of tangents. Here's something completely different. So we're breaking the chain a little bit on the Japanese stuff. A few years ago, I started reading A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn, and I think it was around like summer of 2020, so it was a very apt time to be reading it, and that's what made me want to check it out. But it was too much all at once. It was so heavy, and I knew it was important, and I'd always get around or back around to it at some point. 4 years later, I started reading it again, and I was just like, I don't remember that much, so I'm gonna start it over. I got a little bit past where I was originally and hit that same wall of like, this is too much.
Yeah.
This time, after waiting for a few weeks on Libby by using my library card, I was able to get the audiobook rental of People's History of the United States, read by, I believe, his son, Jeff Zinn. And I highly recommend doing it this way, because if you, like me, have a hard time focusing on 1,200 pages of very small text about the human atrocities that this country was built on, then yeah, having them told to you kind of makes it a little easier to like tune in and out and like focus better, at least for me, because reading it, I would just kind of put myself to sleep in a bad mood.
Yeah.
It's a very hard read, but it couldn't be more necessary because it is very much the type of history book that needs to be taught and won't. And because it isn't taught, is the reason why we have such poor education in this country that leads to terrible electoral choices again and again that further our lack of education, because people end up voting for people that want to dismantle the Department of Education. So, yeah, this is an unflinching look at the humanity and greed that propelled all of the stories that we've been raised to know about the founding fathers and like who they were and how, you know, they wanted to fight against taxation without representation. That's what we're told, but like it's leaving out the fact that they were all a bunch of rich, greedy slave owners that just wanted to be the ones doing the taxing, really. Like it's not about this altruistic notion of building a greater country in the name of God or whatever. Like that's just the narrative we're all fed. That's the propaganda shit that we're all stuck with and makes it so hard to break out of when you hear any real facts or critical look at the history of this country. So highly, highly, highly recommend it. I think it will turn a lot of people that are even remotely curious about challenging the stories that we're used to hearing. It'll turn them into much more avid critics of the patterns that got us here and how to break out of them.
I think you said it all on that. I'm not going to comment on any current events because I already went on my morning commute Instagram tirade against everything that is happening. But I did want to note, because you brought up about this being something that should be taught, I did read a lot of A People's History of the United States in my 10th grade AP World History class.
Then you had a great teacher.
Yeah, and this was at a Catholic Jesuit all boys military high school. Yes, very progressive because it's in Manhattan, so it's like there's like a different vibe and whatnot about that. But we didn't read all of it because it's a huge book and there's a whole class to get through. But what we did read about it, the things that you were saying, we would talk about in class, and we would be like, wait, but we're told this in grade school. And he'd be like, yep, you are. And we were like, but that's not true. And he goes, nope, it's not. And so all these like 15, 16-year-old boys are like, oh God, like we're literally becoming men and like questioning our Americanness in that moment while prepping for an exam at the end of the year. So it was life-changing at the time. Another book we read that if you didn't read, I recommend it to go with it, and I'll try to find my copy and we could do like a little book club about it, is King Leopold's Ghost, which was
what's that?
And it just details in the way that, if I'm remembering correctly, which like I hope someone like calls me out on this if they hear this, in the way that A People's History of the United States is very America centric, King Leopold's Ghost is Europe centric. And it just explains like slave trade, it explains empire, it explains like what happens with the shifts of decaying empires at the end of the 19th and the beginnings of the early 20th century, and how all of that kind of trickles into World War I and then World War II, and then it just goes on and on and on from there. But you can kind of all trace it back to this King Leopold. And that's hence the title, King Leopold's Ghost.
Oh, cool.
But we read that entire book and it was just like, holy crap, like my mind is blown by how everything is so very connected, even if it's so disparate. Like this dude was doing terrible things in the late 1800s that like, if you read it today, you'd be like, there's American politicians who did that today on social media. And then it's like, yep, like the evil remains.
Is this going to be one that I'll need to do an audiobook form as well?
It's not as long as People's History. That is definitely for sure. And I don't remember, does United States feel like you're reading a textbook?
Sometimes it's too biting to feel like a textbook, and that's probably why a lot of schools wouldn't look at it that way or teach it, aside from, breaking the propaganda thing. Yeah, at times it does get very dry. Quick note, though, I will say I also went to a Catholic high school and was very, very happy to have at least two pretty progressive history teachers, because if you're going to have any one class have the progressive people, it should be history. And I'll never forget being at graduation. I did pretty well in school. I got good grades, but I won one award for a subject, and it was social studies. And that was decided upon by the one of two liberal teachers who like saw me and was like, yeah, I got you. And I could just see the number 3 ranked kid in the class who was like very poli-sci and super Republican, just sitting there steaming, just being like, of course it went to the lib. You know?
Yeah. That dude probably has
like, good.
It's probably like in a hedge fund right now, whereas like you have a punk rock band, which like that works well.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got the money and I've got creativity and a podcast.
Oh man, speaking of old people like King Leopold draining, I've been playing this game called Vampire Survivors.
Shut the fuck up, dude.
I think that should be the goal of every podcast, is to make like these terrible pun segues.
Worst segues.
Yeah. So I know Vampire Survivors is super, super old, but I got it after looking for another roguelite like Brotato that I mentioned on our Cup Fillers episode for 2024. And so everywhere was saying that Vampire Survivors is the rogue to play. And I got it really quickly because it was super, super cheap because it's old, and I couldn't get into it. And then another day, again, looking for more roguelikes, they were like, no, just play Vampire Survivors. And it clicked for whatever reason. And I am so addicted to this game. I just want every single achievement. I want to unlock everything. There is lore in there that connects to Contra, that connects to Castlevania, that connects to Among Us in one small campaign. And like, I don't even really care about the story. Yeah, there's an Among Us mode that's just Vampire Survivors with Among Us characters. And
hell yeah.
Yeah, it's so stupid. It's like what I love about video games when I was a kid, where it's like there's not the heaviness of the story, which I do appreciate, but sometimes you just want to like mess around and have fun in a video game.
Yeah.
And so there's a time limit on the stages where like at 10 minutes the Grim Reaper comes out and kills you, because that's the end of the stage. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 30. Dude, I've put like hours of my life into these like 10-minute, 5-minute, 30-minute bursts, and I'm not done with the game, and I'm still very happy that there's more to go. Like it's one of those games that you feel like you're pouring yourself into, but it's not a time waster. Even though the gameplay doesn't really change, there's a ton of unlockables, and yeah, it's so much fun. It's making me feel like I'm a real gamer, even though I would say I'm much more of a casual gamer. But it's because I come home and I'm like, do I want to watch TV? Do I want to read? I got chores to do, all these different things. And like, I'm finding myself more and more now picking up my Steam Deck and being like, it's 8 o'clock and I'm going to play some Vampire Survivors and just plugging in and zoning out. Have you ever played it?
No, I've heard the same thing about that, Balatro and Hades, that like it's addictive and like you're gonna die a lot and you're gonna fail a lot, but you're gonna want to keep going. And I've already got too much like addiction issue with like RPGs and stuff that I'm like, I don't think I can open myself up to that world. But if I were to, I think it would have to be the right mix of gameplay and aesthetic to get to really have an appeal to hook into me, you know?
That's why I think Vampire Survivors works for me. Same as Brotato, because you level up, so you have that RPG grindy feel, but you level up so quickly because it's so fast paced due to the time constraints. And it's easy to pick up and play, but also you don't have to sit there for hours just to feel like, okay, this is a good time to pause, save my game, and I'll return to it at a later date. I played Balatro and Hades. I see why Balatro is addictive. Hades less so for me. Maybe it'll click now that I'm getting more into rogues and they're resonating further with me. But Hades I found more frustrating and annoying, and not in the way that Vampire Survivors and Brotato have been like, I'm making progress even though like I've just unlocked some characters, but I still have to do this hard level or find this thing or evolve this item or whatever the case might be. Yeah. That's my third.
Cool. I have one more, and I'm going to keep it quick. So real quick shout out. Today is March 21st, 2025. It is my mother's birthday. So I just wanted to wish her a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Steve's mom.
Yay. Yeah, no, I love her, and I'm sad that I'm not able to celebrate it with her, but she's on a trip right now and making some good time with family and partner. So I'm excited for her. The reason I bring up the date is because aside from wishing her happy birthday, is this is also the day the new Japanese Breakfast album came out. So I just wanted to make my thoughts known upon listening to the album one time before I hear it dozens of times in my house, because my partner's obsessed with Japanese Breakfast. This is a really, really good album. This, like, I've loved all her stuff so far. I kind of change my opinion of which one I like more between Songs from Another Planet and Jubilee. But this one scratches something different because it's kind of softer and folkier than her last three albums, but it still has that same heart and beauty that you'd come to expect from her, and a lot of inspiration from her South Korean heritage. That apparently she spent a lot of time in Seoul, kind of getting more immersed in a culture that she's always been like partially in, and you read about that in Crying in H Mart, like I know you did. So to see her like dive into, gain some inspiration for her music as well from South Korea is really cool. I've got to listen to it more to really form more opinions, but so far my favorite song is Honey Water. I think like it's got that I knew you would, because it's got that shoegazy thing to it.
So shoegazy,
I really
man.
like it's like Diving Woman and Slide Tackle. It's got like those like good hooks, but also like builds and has like cool like droney stuff that you could listen to for a while, you know, stuff that earns its length. But I got to dive into it more because I think this is an album that gives back to you as much as you put into it. You know, if you want it to be just a chill vibe, that's fine. If you want to dig deeper into the lyrics, there will be something for you to get out of it there. So definitely a high recommend for me.
Yeah.
The album is called For Melancholy Brunettes and Sad Women. Again, by Japanese Breakfast, also known as Michelle Zauner, the author of Crying in H Mart.
Yeah, she got the title from a John Cheever story I read in a Stereo Gum interview today. And I listened to it earlier, and I had the first reaction that you said, where it's like, it's just a chill vibe, so I wasn't all that impressed by it. And then I listened to it again on the way home, because it's like 32 minutes, so it's a quick listen. And I was like, oh, now it's clicking. For whatever reason, I was in the right headspace. And I actually messaged your partner because I saw her post about it on Instagram, and I was like, it's clicking for me, finally. And she gave me a ton of songs to check out, too.
Yeah. You're seeing her in May.
Oh, that's awesome. Where's she playing?
I think Brooklyn Steel, I want to say.
Oh, that's cool. That'll be fun. I wonder if they'll still have tickets. I think my partner would be into that, too. Because she read H Mart and she really, really liked it. And I think she'd find a lot to like on this album as well.
Oh, I was wrong. It's Brooklyn Paramount.
Oh, Brooklyn Paramount. Okay. Yeah. But still, I couldn't get into previous Japanese Breakfast stuff. I liked her when she was in Little Big League, but that was
also good.
Much more like indie emo and like my lane. When she went into Japanese Breakfast and like more indie pop territory, not that it's not my lane, it's just like it's harder for me to click with it. But she's great, and I love this album. I gotta listen to it again. My final recommendation is another podcast that I've been getting into, or not been getting into. I am into it since it came out. It's called Hyperfixed, and it's from Alex Goldman, who used to be one of the hosts on Reply All, which was one of the OG.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Really, really big podcast where it was a show about the internet, I think is what the tagline was. Mm-hmm. But some of those episodes were very, very personal. There was one that had Alex Goldman like fly across the world to figure out some customer service scam, and it ended up being a very, very human story over 4 episodes, and it was fantastic. He also had this bit, or not this bit, he had this segment on Reply All called Super Tech Support, which is where he figured out this weird internet technological glitch that was happening somewhere with someone. When they submitted a question to the show. So he took that idea and made it into Hyperfixed, where it's like you could have any question and he'll give you an answer, or he'll try to give you an answer is the claim to the show. So there have been questions about like where jingles have come from, or a certain jingle that a listener was looking for. And then there was an episode about whether or not it is the right thing to have kids nowadays in the 21st century. Yeah.
Can you send me that episode?
I will. And I think you're going to be surprised by it. I was surprised by it. And I I felt very validated myself in my own personal feelings that I'm growing into and developing and grappling with as I get older. And something that he said on it, I'm not going to spoil what it was, but after you listen to it, I'll tell you. Something that he said on it made me feel so very validated and better and calmer. And I was just like, wow, who knew I could get this from a podcast? So I can't recommend it enough. But I think the last episode was about a label on a tube of frosting saying that it must be consumed with other food. So it could be as silly as that too. And Alex's narration style is just so fun that you're like, man, I have a parasocial relationship with you 100%. I hope that's okay. And he'll message you back if you like posted him or tweeted him or whatever, and he'll be like, it's not okay, but thanks for listening. You should come pay me money so I could keep making it. He just has a great attitude. The music is awesome. It's glitchy. It's fun. It's synthy. He has his own musical project that I started following after Reply All called Slow Fawns, which is like glitchier, noisier. Everything the dude makes is awesome. And I'm happy that we have him making podcasts again, especially with Hyperfixed. So I might even like link my favorite episode in the show notes for our episode because it's just really, really good and more people should listen to it.
Cool. I got to get into more podcasts because I've been listening to YouTube and audiobooks and stuff for a long time. But the only podcast I really listen to, and not even that regularly, it's more the clips on YouTube, is Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. So like I would like some more, or you know what, my partner's actually shown me some good ones, like If Books Could Kill and Maintenance Phase and You're Wrong About. So a lot of the Michael Hobbs stuff, either that he was in or is now. But that sounds good. I really want to hear that child having episode, or like natalism episode, because I've been hearing a lot of takes about it lately, and I've got my own thoughts. So I would like to see some more expanded views of what that could be about. But also, like, now I'm really curious about the frosting thing.
I'll send you both. They're both fun. I would honestly even say, like, I'll send you like their first episode to like set you up with the humor that they do for that, like their pilot. Then do the kid episode, then do the frosting one as like a come down. Okay. And like it'll be great. I think knowing you and knowing your opinions on having children, I think you will also feel very validated. Which is, it's just That's really
kind of the impression I got from what you just said. It almost, if I had to guess what they say, it's something along the lines of like, it's your life to choose what to do with. Oh,
nope. No. He's no. I mean, like, obviously, like that comes up in the conversation, like you do what you think is best, but the person is asking the question, is it immoral for me to have kids? And then she lays out all the reasons why she's saying no, but at the same time, she really kind of wants to, but she's not ready. And it's just a very, it is a very holistic take on the question. And his answer is just like, it's not a catch-all of like what you were just phrasing, but it is very much so like, you will be affirmed. People I know who want to have kids will be affirmed. People I know who haven't even thought about it, but might start thinking about it as they get older will be affirmed. Like he really clearly took the time to think about this, and in his research and investigation on behalf of his guest for that episode, the answer just like is like, okay, that's fair. Thank you for that thought. And you just now you go and sit with it. And you go and make the decision like you're saying, because it is your decision. But he doesn't rest on the easiness of that answer.
Good. Yeah. I mean, it is such an important debate and question. And I don't like it when people are adamant in one way or the other because of hard rules, you know, especially when that rule is you need to have them because that's just what you do.
Yeah.
Like, I hate shit like that. So to hear anybody engage with it thoughtfully, one way or the other, is interesting to me. Yeah.
I'll send it to you when we're done with this episode. That brings us to the end of our recommendations before we mosey on down that Thunder Road next week. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Filler, if you check anything out, you should let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Filler. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review this episode to help others find it. For more recommendations and exploration of media we love, go to afterschoolspecial.xyz and follow Filler on Blue Sky. See you next time.